This is the Sports Porch, Black and Gold, with your hosts, the technical director, the Grand Schwabini, and Hockey Jesus. Come on, Pittsburgh. Let's show a little Steelers, Penguins, and Pirates love. The Sports Porch Black and Gold starts now. All right, there you go. This is the Sports Porch, the Black and Gold podcast all over the world on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, on the Instagram, and now as an experiment for you TikTok followers, on TikTok, right up there. Say hi to TikTok. What up, TikTok? We will eventually get you on the main broadcast, but this is our first time doing it. So if you're in the house, say hello, drop a comment, follow us. You can also subscribe to the Sports Porch on YouTube at the Sports Porch Podcast. And of course, we are a podcast. We drop the podcast right after the game on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcast. That's exactly right. YouTube is in the house. LinkedIn is in the house. We do also have a live radio stream that I'm going to put up here. I'm just dropping the stream in the comments. That is radiopgh.com. That is our live internet radio station. You can listen to it anytime you want. So, guys, I don't know if I should play the Eagles fight song.
I don't think you need to do that.
But I do, however, want to start the show.
The song isn't that great.
It's not good. It's not. But I do want to start the show with something that every Pittsburgh fan wants to see. Every Steelers fan wants to see this.
Oh, yeah.
Because it must be seen. And if you're on TikTok, we'll describe it. Here we go. The best play of Super Bowl 59, hands down.
For the second time, the Vince Lombardi Trophy is headed to Philadelphia.
Kenny Pickett.
You know he's keeping that ball.
Kenny Pickett.
It's the only Super Bowl he'll ever get.
Kenny Pickett kneels down for the final seconds.
I knelt with this ball.
Yeah, that's right.
On the field, minus 1 yard.
Hey, you got to give it up to the Eagles. You know, when you see a winner, get them on your team.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
They knew a winner when they saw one.
I mean, come on now. Does it get any worse than that for Steelers fans right now? Seriously,
it doesn't mean anything.
Cares.
No.
Are you serious?
You're telling me.
Yes, I am.
You're telling me that Steelers Nation right now is not upset in any way, shape, or form about the fact that Kenny Pickett, who sucked here, and didn't deserve to be a starting quarterback here, went to the Eagles.
He was drafted in the first round
and got to kneel down for the final seconds of a Super Bowl victory. He's going to get a ring. He's going to get a paycheck,
dude.
And he will forever.
Matter.
You are
he will
so
forever.
crazy.
Hold on, he will forever.
It doesn't matter.
Every time he does, how many times have you seen this somewhere? This week at the mall, Super Bowl champion Joe Smith.
Right,
forever for the rest of his life, anywhere he goes for a paid appearance, of which he will get some, they will always be featuring Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett. I mean, think about that. Think about the irony. Just
Dude,
the irony.
Everybody knows his position on this team. Nobody thinks of him as a Super Bowl champion.
I know that. I know that. That's the point of bringing it up.
And
That's
nobody's even upset about it in Pittsburgh because they know what he is.
I don't know.
As a matter of fact, I would almost say Pittsburgh sports radio trying to make it a story is pathetic.
It is absolutely pathetic.
Yeah.
Everybody on the team, including everybody who's ever been in the office, will get a ring.
Right.
That includes
that's true.
Kenny Pickett.
Well, and they can all get paid appearances and say, former Super Bowl champion Joe Smith.
He had 0% to do with anything that the Eagles did, which, by the way, they did a lot of great things that the Steelers need to take notice of.
I would agree with you, and we're going to talk about that in just a second here.
By the way, I'm wearing in homage to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Harold
Carmichael, the Kelly Green.
Yep.
One of the great
Show us the number. Show us number 17. Stand up a little bit. There you go. I mean, we have to, and the Grand Schwabini for our Philly show at 6 p.m. Eastern time. He's got the general seating for the link behind him, but
yes,
we've got to give him some props. We've got to congratulate him. His Eagles won the Super Bowl, and my God, did they do it in a pretty handy fashion. It
was very exciting. I did not think that it was going to be a total domination that it was.
Yeah.
But boy, was it fun. It was fun to just watch Patrick Mahomes be lost and have no answers. And Andy Reid have no answers.
Yeah,
it was great.
He looked like the old man and the young kid. Like you've never seen them before. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to it in the postseason. But they made them look like absolute fools in the whole game. Like,
right,
Philadelphia did not take their foot off the pedal at all, whether it was on defense or offense. That pass to Devonta Smith deep showed that they just wanted to keep going. The rush that the Eagles had, even though it was only 4 people, looked like it was like 8 people coming at him.
It did.
I mean, every pass play, because for whatever reason, they decided they were going to put the ball in Mahomes' hands, and they had no way to get it out quickly.
Yeah,
right.
And that's what was surprising to me.
Right.
I thought they would find a way to get it out quickly, but they were just so, like, literally he had no time to throw the ball. I think I saw a statistic where he had 20 passes and like 10 were rushed and 5 were, hit or something like that. And sacked,
right.
And so basically he got to throw 5 balls of his first 20 that were clear and free of anything. That's a recipe for a loss, big time.
Yeah. I mean, what I put down in the ticker here, the Super Bowl 59, the Eagles hunt and kill the Chiefs, champions. They hunted, they killed, they're champions. I do want to go and ask this question. It's kind of a parlay to, and we're going to talk about our parlay, by the way.
Oh, okay.
It's a parlay to Yinzer trivia. Which one of us correctly predicted the Eagles to win the Super Bowl?
That would be the technical director.
Thank you very much. You're welcome, Mark. You're welcome. And I'm going to make another prediction at the end of this show that I'm almost 100% sure is going to come true.
And
almost,
that's
but
great.
we have to wait to the end. We have to wait for the end. Oh, what a tease!
Yeah, absolutely.
and Chris's record when it comes to picking games. So
yes,
I'm sure everybody's going to wait around for that.
Hey, listen, I picked the only game that matters. Did I not?
No, they all matter.
Yeah, no, this one is the one that
it's
really,
a cumulative effect.
Really, truly mattered. So how did you guys think about the Eagles' performance in the Super Bowl? Leave us a comment if you're on TikTok. Drop us a comment if you're on YouTube, X, Instagram, or Facebook. Mike Lawrence is asking, is Schwabini making a trip to Philly to run up the steps of the art museum? He should, and send video or pictures. Congrats to the Eagles. It's not a bad idea.
It's a fine idea.
Do you think you could actually make it up the steps of the art museum if you ran?
I do.
Okay.
But I also have a job. So I won't be going in just to run up the steps, which I probably did when I was 8.
Yeah.
But it's a nice thought, nice sentiment, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks, Marvin, for being here. He says, good evening, guys.
Hey, Marvin, what's up?
I don't think there's any way to really break down this game because it was so one-sided. I mean, HJ was at my house. By the way, this is HJ to my left, and he's going to be doing a little Penguins stuff a little bit later on.
Yes, I will.
Hockey Jesus in the house and the Grand Schwabini across from me, of course. It's hard to break this game down other than Vic Fangio not dialing up a blitz for almost the entire game, and the fact that, I actually think that Andy Reid had no answer for that because he wasn't expecting it. What do you guys think? Because I would give the defense the MVP over Jalen Hurts, and he played a fantastic game, but that whole defense should be named co-MVP.
I think both on the offensive and defensive side for Philadelphia, they had the perfect response, and it's because they have such a great offensive and defensive line.
Right.
That offensive line, I mean, they could have tried the blitz, Kansas City. It wouldn't have mattered. Philadelphia was picking everything up. And if they knew the blitz was coming, guess what? They just would have run the ball. And I know that Barkley wasn't effective in his running, but they were smart enough to keep at it and keep him in the game with swing passes. And on top of that, they had 2 other big weapons they use.
Did I miss something? I was talking about the Eagles defense. Did I say Kansas City's defense? Did I miss something?
Well, I don't know why you're talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about how the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Oh,
okay. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't
that.
care about the Kansas City's defense. They didn't play. They weren't there.
That's true.
They had no scheme that could have stopped that Eagles offense.
True.
And despite having a good season, it was clearly all fake. Because everybody knows they won most of their games by 1 score, and it was because they weren't playing against good teams.
Right.
When they played against the best team of the league, they got their asses handed to them.
That's very true.
And that's the bottom line. And the thing that I think that Steeler Nation needs to think about is the NFL tends to be a copycat league. I don't know how you can copy this offensive line size and speed. And I don't understand, unless you draft 3 consecutive drafts like the Eagles did, you can get a team like this that quickly. You would have to have a perfect draft the next 3 years to get to there. And let's face it, the Steelers don't have that kind of timing. So what it proves is, if you have a great running game and you have a top-notch defense, you can basically win a championship. Mm-hmm. And because that's what the Eagles did, but you also have to be able to pass the ball, because they were able to pass the ball well enough with Devonta Smith first and A.J. Brown, breaking up the secondary essentially. I know he only had like 3 catches, but he was the guy who was double teamed most of the night and took their number 1 defensive back so that everybody else could do what they did. Mm-hmm. Just a great offensive scheme and defensive scheme by the Eagles.
Yeah.
And it make Kansas City look like, honestly, like a minor league team.
The one thing Kansas City did do right is they were able to take Saquon Barkley as far as numbers out of the game. And we talked about this last week in our Super Bowl preview show. We said they're going to focus. They're going to pull a Bill Belichick. They're going to say, let's take the biggest threat. And they were successful at that.
Yep.
The problem is the Eagles have a guy named Jalen Hurts who doesn't crack under pressure. And they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who are pretty damn good receivers. And I think the Eagles were ready for that. I think they thought the same thing.
Yeah.
They said Barkley is going to be their focus, and we're not going to run away from Barkley. He only averaged like 2.5 yards a carry or something like that.
Yeah.
But they rushed him 25 times. And we said on the earlier show, he had 6 receptions for 40 yards. So, he was actually the perfect decoy.
Yep.
For that offense at the time.
I don't think he was even a decoy. I think because they ran, they always had to have 6 guys in the box, and that just exposed them to the pass. You're going to have Devonta Smith, and even on that pass to Johan Dotson down to the goal line.
Yep.
I mean, they weren't afraid to make the plays, and kudos to Hurts. He deserves the MVP because he was able to make every one of those throws, minus maybe that one interception. But
but that was
more like
so
a punt.
Inconsequential, right? It was like a punt. Marvin says the first pass went to a new guy. Yep. The Chiefs got exposed, and their coaching staff are a very good group. They did a great job. I don't know if I would say the Chiefs got exposed. I would say that the Chiefs are running into an issue in that the talent around Pat Mahomes is not what it has been the last 4, even 5 years. You've got Kelsey, who is clearly now not what he was.
Right. Yeah. He's on his way down.
He's on his way down.
And he was his number 1 target.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was bad.
Yeah.
He dropped like
a
couple balls. Yeah. I mean, he was bad.
Yeah.
But his hair looked good.
Yes. Well,
I thought it was a mistake cutting the hair.
Yeah.
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 We talked about that before.
It resulted in a loss.
Yeah. That's exactly
when
right.
Taylor Swift says, get your haircut and look nice,
Yeah.
you get your haircut and look nice.
Look, as soon as you start letting your woman tell you what to do, you can just kiss the rest of your life.
When your woman's making $1 billion, I think he made the right choice.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, right. It does lead to other things. So, right. And they don't really have a running back to speak of. P. Ryan is
thing.
Is a cast off.
I mean, here's the thing.
Schwab disagrees.
They don't have a great running back, but there's still no excuse for 3 runs in the first half. I mean, it was old Andy Reid, Eagle Andy Reid, who we always used to say he never runs the ball. All he does is pass. And that's what they did. And in this particular game, he should have figured out in the first quarter that you're going to have to balance it out because Mahomes was running for his life.
Yeah, every play that he went back. I mean, and the other thing that the Eagles defense did a great job of, because I think Mahomes is the master of this, is keeping him in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
He was not able to get outside. You could see when he tried to go outside, he was like did like a spin around, and then the other guy was right there. Or when
he ran into somebody,
or when he would try and cut up into where there would normally be a gap, there was no gap. They were very disciplined in their rush.
Yeah,
and that's why it takes, it took 4 guys to stop Mahomes. It wasn't just one. All of their defensive guys played well.
Yeah, Vic Fangio came up with a game plan of his life. Probably the game plan of the century, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, he had the right personnel to execute.
He
because
did.
They drafted well.
Yeah,
and they went out and got talent with AJ Brown to make them better. And that was it. That's all they needed. All the pieces were there.
Yeah, I will say, Steve, when you were talking before about how it's hard to replicate that, you are right. I mean, I saw some graphic where like the last 3 drafts, their first round, second round, and third round picks, they're all good contributors on the team.
Yeah, that Williams was drafted 3 years ago, and he was like a 3rd round pick. Right?
Williams was a 3rd round pick. Sweat was a 3rd round pick.
I mean, come on.
Jalix Hunt was a 3rd round pick from this year.
Yep.
Right.
And
your first 2 picks of this year were starters.
Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
I mean,
and then the year before it was they had 2 first round picks, and they took Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith.
I think that's another thing that Steelers Nation needs to think about. When you draft somebody, you play them. They're first round picks for a reason. You got them not to play behind somebody, but to make an impact in year 1, because the salary cap makes it necessary to do that in the first 3 years, because you're not, if you hit the home run, like I think the Eagles are going to have problems now because some of these guys are not going to be able to re-sign. But so what? They still got some of these guys for 2 more years, and if they drafted good character guys, they're not going to hold out and wait for a new contract. And if they're good enough, you know what? Howie will give them a new contract anyways, because he knows which guys to sign and which guys not to sign.
Yeah, and Howie Roseman got my 3rd game ball in our previous show.
Yeah, just well done by the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, the last year, the beginning of the year, when I mentioned that Saquon Barkley as a signing would take them to the Super Bowl, I thought that was it. I had no idea that they would be drafting these 2 cornerbacks that seemed to be both shutdown corners, and then signing a guy like Zach Bond. I didn't see the impact from that at all. I thought that their defense, because of the fact that it had been ranked the 30th defense, I actually thought they had enough talent that there was no way they were going to be that bad again. So for them to move up even 10 or 12 spots, even if they're in the bottom half of the league, but in that top area, I think that could have put them over the top.
Yeah.
Having Saquon Barkley. But so the thought that they would come all the way to being the number 1 defense, that just proves how great a defensive coordinator Fangio was. And as far as the lack of blitz, I mean, look, if there's any proof that these guys don't watch tape and make decisions, it's gone. I mean, how do you not watch the tape of Patrick Mahomes playing, watching every single team he plays try to put pressure on him by blitzing him, and watching them all fail? And that leads to, well, you know what? We're just not going to blitz him. We're just going to put as much pressure as we can on the gaps and on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he starts to panic, he's going to run into somebody instead of running away from. It seems so simple.
Right. Well, but here's the thing, though. I mean, I think part of it obviously is having good personnel, but the other part of it is having the good coaching.
True.
Because Vic Fangio basically got those guys to buy in to be selfless,
right,
and to stay in their gaps, stay in their lanes.
Yep.
Right.
Great coaching.
And that's So think about this. I mean, seems so long ago, but remember this offseason,
I know
they didn't bring back Hassan Reddick.
Right.
And at least from what I heard from the Eagles insiders, is that Vic Fangio didn't want him because all he cared about was getting sacks, and he didn't keep to his assignments.
Yeah, there you go.
Wonder who that reminds you of.
Yeah. Well, and also when he went to the Jets, I mean, he had problems.
Yeah.
I mean,
he went to the Jets. Yeah. That's his first problem.
Yeah, but then he went to the Jets for the money, and also they didn't really play him, and he immediately wanted to get out of there, and that's a sign that he's selfish. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean,
come on, you would have went for the money.
I'd go for the money now for sure. And actually, when I was younger, I would have gone.
Yeah,
for the money,
more so when you were younger, I would say.
Yeah, put me on a football field and try to get me to sacks.
I have a question for Mark.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about this. Remember last year when the Eagles were going through that terrible spell where it was like they had such a great start and then they just went down and were tanking.
Yeah,
and everybody in Philadelphia wanted to get rid of Sirianni.
Right.
What happened with the Eagles fan base that they, instead of doing the Philadelphia thing and pitchforking the guy out of town, what happened to the Philadelphia fan base to make them want to keep Sirianni and rebuild with him?
They won the Super Bowl. Now,
last year.
To be honest, it wasn't a given that he was going to be brought back.
Right. I know.
They waited like 10 days until like after the Super Bowl to say he was coming back.
I know.
Like they were thinking about it.
They
were thinking about Belichick, and they were also thinking about it like 4 games into the season when they were 2-2.
Yeah, right. They started 2-2.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I got to be honest. I was one of those.
I know
idiots.
you were. That's why I'm
one
saying.
Of those idiots.
What changed in the mentality of a Philadelphia fan? Because I think Philadelphia fans are so impatient, and they're
really
so, and like I recognize Sirianni as a great choice, and because he took him to the Super Bowl early, and last year I just was like, he's learning, and that's what I was thinking. But everybody in Philadelphia was like, had the pitchforks out and wanted to get rid of him. What changed in the thinking?
Well, you know what I think it is. First of all, I think number one, it's winning. After the 2-2 start, they won 16 of 17, including the Super Bowl, right? But, the other part of it is sometimes it's just like my big thing was, what does he do? Like, what does he do? Like, he doesn't call the plays on offense. Right. He doesn't call the plays on defense. What does he do?
Yeah, he just pulls it all together, right?
Right.
He's a rah-rah guy.
Right. And then when that's what you are, and then you're going for it on every 4th down and you're blowing a game, then it's like, well, this is what he's supposed to be good at, managing the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But, I think what I've kind of learned through this experience is there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that you just don't even know about.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, the Eagles have one of the best offensive line coaches in the league, Jeff Stoutland.
Who
clearly
Chip Kelly brought him over.
Yes.
A holdover from Chip Kelly.
And he's awesome.
Yeah.
And so one of the big success stories this year was moving Mekhi Becton from tackle to guard. And he really, he didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he had a Pro Bowl type season, right? And you know what? It wasn't until Super Bowl week where I heard an interview with Stoutland, and they asked him about moving Becton to guard. And he said, he's like, I got to give all the credit to Nick on that. That was Nick's idea. And I just said, all right, we can try it.
Yeah. So it came from the player. They were listening to the player.
No. It came from Sirianni.
Oh, it came from the head coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Came from Sirianni.
So that's what he does.
So that's what he does. He does things like that. Right. And I think the other thing he does too is, after they had a 2-2 start, apparently like Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson went in and talked to him. And he's receptive to that.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, like, hey, look, like, we got Saquon Barkley. Like, why aren't we running the ball 60% of the time?
Yeah.
And
we can open up lanes.
Right.
Like we can get
Right.
we can get him a lane. He'll go to the
Right.
house.
And he went with that. But not only did he go with that, but then he also had to manage for the whole season AJ Brown maybe being unhappy.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know, Devontae Smith maybe being unhappy.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just kind of getting everybody to buy into the mission of this is our best chance to win. And he does a really good job of that.
Yeah. It's obvious. What he does is he says to the coordinators, this is your offense, this is your defense. I'm the glue.
Mm-hmm.
If players have issues with each other, they have issues on the field, they have issues off the field, they bring those issues to me, then I come to you and we settle it that way. And that's what he does. And he did it really well. And I've been a Sirianni defender for the last couple of years, especially after that collapse. I thought it would have been a mistake for the Eagles to let him go. And yes, Philadelphia fans are very impatient. And they let you know it.
But let's also take this and turn it towards the Steelers a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
that was my next question.
That's going to hurt.
That was my next question.
We're going to do it, but that's going to hurt.
But here's I think a key difference between the way Eagles have been doing things versus the Steelers, which is the difference is Nick Sirianni doesn't have all the power.
Right.
You know, he's an employee of the team. And, you know, Howie Roseman picks the team.
Right.
And it's his job to coach it and essentially be like a director for the offensive and the defensive coordinator.
Right.
Right. And the other thing that it means is in Philadelphia, if you win 11, well, that looks good.
Hey, Lauren.
Hey, Lauren. Hey, good to see you.
And the Pittsburgh Property Diva shows up with our Trader Joe's segment. We'll get to after this.
And the thing is in Philadelphia, if you win 11 games and you get blown out in your first playoff game, you're on the hot seat.
That's it. Yeah,
you're on the hot seat. And look, there's different ways to do things, and I'm not opposed to keeping a coach for a long time. They'll probably end up keeping Sirianni for a long time.
Yeah,
now
maybe a little bit longer. They might give him 2 more years.
Yeah, that's a long
time for Philadelphia.
But if you think about it, I mean, you know, in the last 8 years, they've won a Super Bowl with 2 different coaches and 2 different quarterbacks, and it was okay to fire Doug Peterson, who won them their first Super Bowl,
right,
when he, didn't do well the 3 years afterwards.
Exactly.
That it was time to move on and try somebody new.
Right.
And look, I mean, I'll be 100% honest. Like, if this year turned out to be a continuation of the previous year's fallout,
right,
he wouldn't be back.
Yeah, if they if they were one and done in the playoffs,
right,
and maybe went to 14-3, still they probably would have gotten rid of him.
Right.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe not 14-3.
I'm not convinced of that.
Yeah, but
okay, 10-7.
Yeah, if they were 10,
let's use a Steelers euphemism.
Yeah, if they were 10-7 and they got blown out 40-20,
right,
he'd be gone.
Yeah,
and I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing. But
they've proven it's not.
I think to bring it back to the Steelers, I think that's the problem with the Steelers. They have this history of the head coach being the head coach for life, and now that seemingly isn't working,
right?
Or they hired somebody so young he wants to keep coaching for a very long time. The Steelers are stuck. Like, if the owner wants to do it, there's nothing that can be done about that. So if the owner doesn't change, or if the owner doesn't have a change of philosophy with that, I mean, there's really not a lot of hope in Steeler Nation when it comes to that. If you want to imitate the best.
Yeah, and here's a shining example of how well the Eagles organization right now is running. We mentioned who's the offensive line coach?
Jeff Stoutland.
He was a Chip Kelly hire.
Mm-hmm.
And Chip Kelly, when he left the Eagles, that was not a good experience.
No,
he was
wasn't.
not liked. They did not have a situation where
he was in and out quick.
He was basically kicked out of town by management.
Right.
But they had the foresight to say, yeah, we don't like this guy, but he did make a pretty good hire here. And they kept him through Doug Peterson winning the Super Bowl, through Nick Sirianni. That's the sign of a great organization.
Right.
Because so even though Chip Kelly ended up, this first year was kind of like a shock, and then it was a disaster, they found the good in that situation. Whereas you've got the Steelers from the top down that have this mentality of continuity and consistency is the name of the game.
Right.
But it's not that they're looking at the wrong continuity and the wrong consistency. It's not head coach for life and all of that bullshit. It's where is the good, so if they were to say to Tomlin, it's time, what from Tomlin, I don't want the answer to this question because I already know what it is, but a good organization would say, okay, it's time to move on from Tomlin, but let's say that their receivers coach, their receivers were doing really well, and the receivers coach, we're going to keep this guy. We're going to let this guy have the opportunity to stay because there's a good part of this. Where the Steelers are right now is seriously, and we're going to probably do a show next week on this, the state of Pittsburgh sports, but where the Steelers are right now on this is nowhere.
No.
They're absolutely nowhere.
Well, and this is the way Tomlin's been coaching from the very beginning. He's kept his offensive and defensive coordinators, even though maybe they have been subpar, because they're familiar.
Maybe.
It's why he drafted Kenny Pickett. Why? Because he was a familiar face. He thought he was a leader. And, maybe he's just not good at judging this anymore. And that's what us Steeler Nations fans have to just be ready to accept.
Wait a minute.
Maybe he just doesn't have it anymore to be able to assess talent, whether it's on the field or whether it's coaching what's on the field. And maybe the Rooneys need to open up their pocketbook a little bit more to hire some assistant coaches and some trainers who can keep their guys on the field instead of being injured and pushing sleds and hurting their calves.
What do you mean Kenny Pickett isn't a leader?
For the second time, the Vince Lombardi.
Seriously, is that not a leader? Is that not a leader?
Dude,
leading his team to the Super Bowl championship.
Three handoffs, one incomplete pass, one kneel down. Super Bowl champion. Okay.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. So I know that you guys can smell what's going on here. So I think it
smell good.
I think it's right after I explained to everybody that if you're watching us live right now, you're watching on Facebook all over the world, on YouTube, on X, on Instagram, and now on TikTok. Wave hi to TikTok, everybody.
What up, TikTok?
And you can catch the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts all over the world. We drop a podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And you can also catch us on YouTube at the Sports Porch Podcast. If you're not subscribed on TikTok, go to YouTube at the Sports Porch Podcast. And right now, boys, it's time for I know it's your favorite time of the show. We call this Trader Joe's Snack Time.
Taste the biscuit. Taste the goodness of the biscuit.
Oh, yeah.
Taste the honey sauce. Taste the goodness of the biscuit with the honey sauce. Don't get that honey sauce on me. I don't like the way it tastes with my chicken wings.
Well, nobody on TikTok can see the graphics, but for you guys who don't know, I work at Trader Joe's in Pittsburgh down in East Liberty. It's a great store, a great company, great people to work with and work for. This is our Trader Joe's Snack Time. It is not a sponsored segment. That's important for the algorithm. They did not pay us to do this, but I did get permission. And what I do is every week I bring home a Trader Joe's product. My lovely wife, the Pittsburgh property diva, Lauren Klein, there she is, pittsburghpropertydiva.com. She heats it up for us usually. And then we sample it and we give our honest opinion. So this week, luckily, I had something in the freezer. It is Trader Joe's BBQ Chicken Pizza.
Ooh, that sounds good. Is this what didn't get eaten last night at the festivities?
It did not get eaten at the festivities last night.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Take a
do
piece.
we have plates?
No, unfortunately, this is the only plate.
Wow, that's a big piece. I got a big piece.
Would you require a plate, Schwab?
Sorry, TikTok. That's what I got right there.
Yep.
For you fans at home.
There it is.
Look
a
at
picture
that.
of the box right there. Barbecue recipe chicken pizza.
Mm.
Here's a napkin you'll never use.
Actually, I might use it. This is a little sloppy tonight.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What do you guys think?
You know what I noticed? There's a lot of quietness in the chat tonight. I think Steelers fans are kind of like not sure how to take the Super Bowl win. I think that everybody's kind of like maybe they're already in the postseason mode, but I think this Eagles win really shows that the Steelers are really in a bad spot right now, and I think that makes a lot of Steelers fans sad, myself included.
I also think, even though we make fun of the idea, I also think that there is something ironic about Kenny Pickett taking the last snap.
No, dude, they're not quiet because of Kenny Pickett. Would you just stop that?
I mean, come on.
Just end that.
All right.
It's so ridiculous. I know you're doing it just to gaslight us, but
I think
I'm doing it to gaslight you. I don't care about Mark. He's Super Bowl champion.
I think thank you. I did contribute to the win.
All your nervousness all year had to contribute to something.
It won.
I feel like you're still nervous and they've won. It's okay.
I'm afraid I'm going to wake up and it was just a dream. I mean, I think the thing with the Steelers that's disappointing, and just so everybody knows, I mean, I root for the Steelers as my second team because they're in the AFC and my wife's a big Steelers fan. I have friends who are Steelers fans. And look, I mean, the chance that they're going to play the Eagles in the Super Bowl, even if they're both good, is still pretty remote.
It's never happened in 59 years.
Right. So, I can certainly root for the Steelers. And one of the things that I find frustrating, because it would be a lot more fun if they were better. Yeah, it's
always fun.
And I think what this game did, unfortunately, when I kind of think about it in the Steelers framework, is it just kind of lets you know, like, just how far away they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty far away. It's not like we don't think of them, and I don't think of them anyway, and say, hey, if they're one player away.
No, I agree with you. I mean, if you just look, and we've already went through this, so there's no reason to talk about it again, except it really highlights the point. Drafting is very important. When you miss on a draft, when you get zero good talent in your first 3 picks, you just can basically you're not going to be able to be competitive in this league, because the Steelers don't really go out and get guys, and we're not hopefully going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, but the last year when they went out and got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, that was an anomaly. That's not something they do. And the fact that they were kind of going after Brandon Ayuk is a new philosophy for the Steelers. And I don't think it's a good one. I think building a team through the draft is the way to go. They just got to get better people at drafting. And I think they have some of those people there. I think Waddell definitely can spot talent, but I'm not so sure Khan can. I think Khan's just a numbers guy. I don't know if he can really identify the talent.
Yeah, well, I think
that's a big problem.
The biggest takeaway I have from this whole drafting situation is when they listed the draft picks on the defensive side of the ball for the last 4 years for the Philadelphia Eagles. And every single one of those guys was drafted, homegrown, and made a huge contribution. Not a small one, a huge one. And I can't name a single Pittsburgh Steelers draft pick. Schwaber must be loving the pizza because we can hear him chewing.
Dude, it's really good.
Okay, let's give a grade to
this.
This is
Let's excellent.
Barbecue chicken pizza, Trader Joe's snack time. Thumbs up?
Well, this is a tough one here.
Oh.
Okay.
You must have a high standard.
I'm going to give a neutral.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Live it.
I'm going to give a neutral because I think it was really good, but I just don't believe in chicken on pizza. But I have to admit, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
So
the barbecue sauce really kicked it.
Yeah, okay. I would add some more this barbecue sauce is great.
I
would add more of it.
Yeah,
because it's that good. Yeah,
but I can't allow it. Is what I'm saying.
Okay,
just from a I don't like pineapple on pizza.
Right.
I can't endorse chicken on pizza.
Well, I can, and I give it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I do too. It's the best.
It's pretty good.
Barbecue
really
chicken
good.
pizza I've ever had.
It is good.
Frozen or not.
It is damn good.
Let's get the slice of New York guy in here and see what he feels about it. Actually, we should have him on and have him taste it and just give us from a perspective of, yes, it's frozen, but.
Or we could get his pie and we could do them side by side.
Yeah, that would really piss him off. That would just piss him off.
Because he knows his pizza's really good. Dude.
Have you watched any of his videos? That would be sacrilege to even put a frozen pizza next to his pizza and say, let's compare it.
Oh,
his videos are pretty funny.
Then we should absolutely do it.
He would ban. Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know how we're going to get pizza from him.
All right, guys, please go over to YouTube, subscribe to the Sports Porch Podcast at the Sports Porch Podcast. We're growing that channel, and of course, you can grab the podcast itself if you want to listen in the car or anywhere else on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. How did our parlay do?
Oh,
we had a parlay.
That's right. The Porch Picks guys were here.
Yeah. Do you want to check TikToks and just see what's going on? Do you want to pull up the Eagles stats? Because I have Instagram up on my other screen here, and I want to go over our.
What do you want me to do here?
Just see how many people are watching on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
If you can find it. So last week we had our 2 young guys, Fade God and Porch Prince, on, and they gave us a 10-leg parlay to bet $100 to win $21,000. I had a little trouble with the FanDuel thing. This is not an endorsement or a sponsorship by FanDuel. I just tried to get on the FanDuel app to do this, and I was successful at that. But there were some parts of this parlay I couldn't find. I personally don't bet on anything, so this was my first time. So we were originally going to bet the Eagles line, the Eagles plus 7.5. What I did is I just changed that Eagles to win. So
we won that,
and then Saquon Barkley first TD because I couldn't find the Jalen Carter sack. Which, by the way, he didn't get.
Right.
So we were going to do our 10-leg parlay was Saquon Barkley first TD, Eagles to win, A.J. Brown over 50 yards, Eagles over 23.5 points, Worthy touchdown, Goddard touchdown, Hurts touchdown.
We didn't get the Goddard touchdown.
Brown and Kelsey 10 yards in the first quarter, and Goddard over 40 yards. So we did the one that killed it for us was the Saquon Barkley first TD. When that happened, when it was Cooper DeJean, right?
No, the damn push. I'm sorry, the quarterback sneak that I said.
Yeah. So, but what we did is we did get the Eagles to win. AJ Brown did not have over 50 yards receiving. We got the Eagles points. We got the Worthy TD. We got the Hurts TD. We did not get the Brown and Kelsey 10 yards, although we almost did. That one pass with Brown, the interference, and the Goddard over 40 yards. So we only got a couple of them. So we totally blew it.
We did poorly. We did poorly.
We did poorly.
But the bottom line is it's so hard to win these parlays.
It really is.
That's why it's so exciting when somebody wins $50,000 because it was impossible.
Hey, I got actually an update on the Porch Picks guys. This predates us, but Fade God, the Eagles fan, he got $50 free. This was about a year ago, and he put it down on the Eagles preseason to win the Super Bowl.
Did he?
Yeah.
How much did he get?
He won $850.
Nice.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. My Max texted me today and he said that. And I was like, wow. He didn't tell me before. I think he was sworn to secrecy.
Didn't want to jinx it.
Yeah. The whole jinx thing.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, for sure. So these guys are for real. They know what they're talking about. I think they let us down a primrose path though with that 10 parlay because nobody ever wins them.
Yeah, and because of the replacement,
we asked for it though. In fairness,
yeah, we did.
Because of the replacement picks, I had to, or because of the replacement picks, the odds were greater that we would not hit it. But if we did hit it, we instead of winning 21,000, we were going to win $51,000.
Right.
And then fight over it. So it's probably better that we didn't win.
Because we fight over money here.
Yeah, we do. No, we don't really fight over money. I just never get any goddamn money out of you.
Here comes the fight.
There. So, okay. So let's move on to Hockey Jesus in the house. We have a bona fide holy man to my left in the studio. This is Hockey Jesus. You can follow Hockey Jesus on the podcast at the Sports Porch podcast. After every single Penguins game, he gives his Hockey Jesus sermon. He talks about the state of the Penguins and what's going on. I know we have the Four Nations tournament starting in a couple days. Yep. Sydney is on the second line on the Canadian team, or that's where he practiced.
I wouldn't call it the second line. Some people would.
Whatever. And so, how are you feeling, HJ?
Well, here's the thing about hockey these days when you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. Crosby got injured. Balkan got injured before him. Now Rust is out. So basically, your three best players, and maybe Raquel's in there too. So let's say 3 of your 4 top guys are injured. It's a really good time to have a tournament for 2 weeks if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan.
Right.
That's how I feel right now. I've already thrown in the towel on the season.
Yeah, I know that
because the season is over. But if you want to have fun, if the Pittsburgh Penguins go 20-5 in their last 25 games, they'll make the playoffs. So I mean,
20-5.
Yeah, they have to go 20-5. They need 40 points.
Right.
If they could go 18-7. You're right at that 91. That's kind of where they were last year, and they didn't make it. That would be worst case scenario. So I'm kind of hoping that Sydney does well in this Four Nations tournament. I'll talk about that in a second. And so that he gets a little taste of the goodness. But honestly, they had to play without these guys for against the New York Rangers, and they beat the Rangers. I mean, the Rangers team's kind of in trouble. They're their own little entity. They did lose to the Flyers, but part of that was, did you see that Bloomquist debacle? He tried to clear the puck and he hits the guy and it goes into the net.
Yeah.
I forget who it went off of. Maybe it was Lawton. I'm not sure.
I think so.
But he was just smiling because he was just laughing about it because it was so farcical. But they played really well against the Flyers. I think the Flyers had like 3 shots midway through the game, and the Flyers ended up winning. Good for them. I think it's really interesting watching the Flyers and the Penguins play because I think they're both kind of at that same talent level now, and they're both probably going to sell off people. So I think they're probably going to be competing for about the same spot, maybe like 7, 8, 9 in the draft, somewhere around there.
Probably.
And they do have to play back to back when they get back from this Four Nations tournament. So that probably will decide.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They do a back to back. They're playing in Philadelphia, and then they're playing in Pittsburgh. I'm headed to that game. It's actually the Max Talbot bobblehead game.
Well, the crazy thing about the Penguins and the Flyers is that they're not that far off from 500, which would leave you to believe like they're okay.
Yeah, but then you throw in the loser.
But then that's what happens. I mean, you look at the standings and it's like, well, almost everybody is over 500, because of the loser point.
Yeah. In my next Hockey Jesus segment, I'm actually going to tackle that. I'm going to show the records without the tie in it. And then I'm going to normalize it for an 82 game season. And you can see how it separates.
Sure.
And you can see like what you have to do. The one team that has done well since the beginning of the year, and maybe the only team that has really made a difference, has been Detroit. But even now they're starting to fade because you can only do that for so long.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the thing is though, that for the Penguins or the Flyers, if they go like 4-1 over 5 games,
yeah,
they'll be like right in the heat of the playoff battle.
Unfortunately for the Pittsburgh Penguins to get into it now, I did this actually. They would have to go 7-0 to start
really?
it, and then they would be like. Right now, they're trending at 79 points for the season, which doesn't get you anywhere.
Right.
If they go 7-0, then they'll suddenly be back up into that 85, 86 range.
Right.
So now you're in striking distance. So depending on what the other teams do, the only problem with that is when I think when they get back, they play Washington, Toronto, Florida, the Flyers twice, Columbus, and then they go on the road and they play the Avalanche in Minnesota on the road. So and that's 8. So I got one wrong, but it's something along those lines. And you're not going to win all those games.
And the problem with it is you go 4-1 out of 5, but then you're not good enough as a team. So then the next 5 you go 1-4.
Yeah.
So it's like you're constantly like, oh, we're the worst team in the league. Oh, we're not too bad. We're not far away from the playoffs. Oh, we're the worst team in the league.
I actually did the analysis of points for the year, and I figured it out. Like, you basically have to win every other game, and instead of winning every other game, if you win every other game, you're pretty close to winning being in the playoffs. So to your point about being 500, the only difference is teams that do that also have like a win streak in there. So they'll win like 4 or 5 in a row. So maybe they'll lose 2 in a row once or twice.
Right.
It's no big deal because when you win that 7 or 8 in a row, you're banking points for later. And that's really the game of hockey in a nutshell when it comes to points. Don't look at the standings and be like, oh, they're only 3 points away from a wild card spot. That doesn't mean anything. It's about the games that are coming up and how many games you have to win to get to a certain point level. 90 points is the bare minimum. If you look at the average in the NHL playoffs, 90 point is the bare minimum to get in. All the teams, the 6 best teams in the West, all are trending over 100 points.
Oh yeah.
And there's Colorado, and depends on who's there. I think Vancouver's there now. Calgary's kind of in the mix. And they're at like 90. Colorado is like 95, and Vancouver's somewhere around 90. So it's just the nature of the game. That's the way hockey is, and that's what you have to look at. So it's tough that if you're not a real fan and you look at the standings, you're like, they're in it, but they're That's why I say I'm throwing in a towel in the season. That being said, the Penguins are going to make some moves. I know last week I said that the Pittsburgh Penguins aren't going to make any moves. I'm retracting that statement. So we're going to have to go back to that tape and get the white out and white that out, because I've heard 2 things that are going to happen for sure. Grzelcyk is going to get traded for sure. There are like 3 or 4 teams that are interested in him. So he's going to go 100%. They're pretty sure they got a suitor for Matt Nieto. Not Nieto, Nola Chari. So Nola Chari is probably going to be the other guy that's going to go. And honestly, with these injuries to Miro Heiskanen down in Dallas and Quinn Hughes in Vancouver, it's possible these guys might be interested in getting Karlsson. And that would be a big win for the Penguins.
Do you think that they would trade Karlsson versus, do you think there's any chance they'd trade Letang?
Well, Letang has a no trade clause, and he doesn't want to really be traded.
Okay.
Letang would have to come to them and be like, I want out.
Gotcha.
I want out. And honestly, if he wanted out, I'm pretty sure Montreal would take him in a heartbeat.
And that's who he would want to play.
And
for,
that's where he that's his hometown. Right. So that would make a lot of sense. But he would have to come to management. I think Letang's here for the duration of his contract, which I believe is 3 more years.
Okay.
I think he just likes playing with Sid. It's familiar, and he still plays a ton of minutes.
He does, yeah.
And he's actually pretty good. I know his plus minus is not great this year, but nobody's is on the Penguins,
right? Yeah.
Except for who did you say? Bolivier.
Bolivier update.
He's a plus minus. Actually, he's been playing great in the absence of the guys. You know why? Because he's a veteran guy. And he knows how to play in the top 6.
Yeah.
There are certain guys that just know how to play in that top 6. They can play a lot of minutes. They play with a lot of energy, and they can take over the game when the superstars aren't there to do it themselves. His talent level clearly isn't like Gino's, or maybe it's still not even the Gino level, the Gino we know now. So. So that's the Penguins. As far as the Four Nations update, if you're interested, the Four Nations tournament starts. The Four Nations tournament, if you're not a hockey fan, is Four Nations: Canada, the USA, Sweden, and Finland. They're the four teams the Four Nations that
where's it going to be on TV?
TNT.
Okay, so we can watch it.
Yeah, they're all 8:00 starts. It begins Wednesday. Except for Saturday. Saturday, there's a 1:00 start and an 8:00 start. They play Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. Those games are in Montreal. Canada plays Sweden on Wednesday. Thursday, you got USA, Finland. Saturday, you got the doubleheader. You got Finland and Sweden. And the big USA versus Canada. That's the 8:00 game on Saturday. That's the one you want to watch. And then they play again on Monday. All four teams play on Monday. The third game of that leg. And then the top two teams out of those points will play next Thursday, a week from Thursday, and they'll play for the championship.
Okay.
And it works off of points. If you win in regulation, 3 points. If you win in overtime, 2 points. If you lose in overtime, you get 1 point. And if you lose outright, you get no points.
Do you like this this deviation from the season or no?
I have mixed reviews because I love the talent. Watching these guys play is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and there's going to be like very little physical play probably, it's going to be
I think
faster.
There'll be some physical play. It won't be like an all-star game where they'll just skate around. It'll be a real hockey game for sure.
Okay.
I mean, you've got all-star defensemen on both sides. They're not just going to let guys skate around them, you know. Mm-hmm. So they'll be playing for national pride. And anytime Canada's in a hockey tournament,
they're into it.
They really get into it, and that's why the first 3 games are in Montreal. The other 2 games, the Monday and Thursday games, are going to be in Boston, actually.
Okay.
I love the idea of the talent playing. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I will absolutely be watching it. But you know how I feel about made-up statistics.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel about made-up tournaments.
Right.
It's nothing. It's just basically a preview because they haven't played in the Olympics for a while, and it's kind of a preview for 2 years from now when they will play in the Olympics.
I mean, I kind of get it if it's for the Olympics, but I don't really understand why. To be honest, I don't care right now because and I would think a Penguins fan wouldn't care either because the teams aren't that good and it's something fun to watch, right?
That's why I like it, because it's going to be fun to watch.
But if my team was in contention for a title, I would be really annoyed that we're taking 2 weeks off of the season to focus on something that doesn't really matter.
I agree with you. If I had for example, the Rangers, they have 6 players playing, right? And I guess Shesterkin's not playing. He got injured. There are guys that got injured that just aren't going to play. And Sydney was kind of on that list. But because he practiced today, he'll play. Yeah. He's going to play with TD says the second line. I say the first line.
Well, that's just
with McKinnon and Marchand. But of course, on the first line, you got McDavid.
And
he's playing with I think Nylander.
That's just where he practiced. That's what they said. So, Hockey Jesus preaches on the podcast. You can follow him on YouTube at the Sports Porch Podcast, and also all over the world on the Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio app, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. Hockey Jesus, thank you very much. Next Hockey Jesus is going to be...
I'm going to have a preview before the Four Nations. And it's going to kind of talk about the lines a little bit for the Four Nations, but I'm also going to give an update as to who I think is going to make the playoffs and who can push for the playoffs in both the West and the Eastern Conference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is one more prediction here that actually the Grand Schwabini made. He did say the Chiefs would go undefeated and lose the Super Bowl. You got to lose the
I got to lose the Super Bowl, right? Yeah,
that's exactly
all
right. And I'm going to go
the most important one.
I'm going to go out on a limb before we get to what we're watching, and I'm going to say the Eagles are going to repeat next year.
Okay.
They're going to repeat.
Right.
It's hard to repeat.
Really
Hopefully I'll remember that during our NFL prediction show.
Oh, don't worry.
In August.
We'll ridicule you.
Right.
I know you will. Okay, what we were watching. Schwaber, you want to tell us what this is and why we do it?
Absolutely. What this is our service to you. You are our fans. We love you. We care about you. And we understand the angst, the turmoil, the disappointment of trying to find that show, and you can't find anything.
Nothing.
You keep watching trailers, and you think for a minute, like, maybe this one, nah, I don't think so. And it's rough.
Picked for you never works.
And there's so many different things, right? There's Netflix, there's Hulu, there is Apple TV Plus, there is Prime, there is
Max.
Freebie, Max, Tubi, Booby, VB, Skibi, Meeby.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
And it's so darn difficult. But listen to us. We're going to do it for you. We're going to tell you what's good, what's not good, and then you can have an enjoyable viewing experience.
We're going to save your downtime. We're going to make it worthwhile.
Yes.
Did you give me one this week?
I did not.
Okay.
Oh.
That's what I thought.
No,
Okay.
I did not.
Okay, we're going to start with the Grand Schwabini. I'm assuming that this is the movie you watched before the Super Bowl.
Yes. I went out to see Companion.
That girl has
What?
lovely eyes. Lovely eyes.
What is going on with this?
Well, I have to tell you, one of the things I recommend.
Is this a horror flick?
Interesting. That's what I'm going to talk about.
All right.
One of the things that I recommend, I think it's always good to go to a movie with like no expectations. I always think it's good to like not even watch the trailer, because sometimes the trailer gives away a lot.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
I thought from watching the trailer, I thought this was a horror movie. I was completely wrong. It's a sci-fi movie.
Is it a love story?
No, not really.
I mean, companion. Is there robot sex?
There's robots.
Robot sex.
Yeah. So let me basically explain it.
Maybe you don't know
who
the robots
now,
are.
I'll say this. Now we have kind of already ruined one aspect of it, so we'll just run with it since it's already ruined.
Sorry,
but the idea is that this is now like, I guess some point in the future, although it still looks like modern day, right? And you can buy a companion.
Of course.
And that companion is a robot that falls in love with you.
Oh, okay. But you're guaranteed it's going to fall in love with you.
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing is that there's all kinds of settings. Like you can, use your app and they can talk in different languages. You can give them an intelligence level. They could be 30% intelligent or 100% intelligent. They could be 20% angry or 100% angry. And all this kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it was really good. I enjoyed it. It was very interesting and a good watch. I mean, it was just a lot of twists and turns, things that you don't see coming, and I thought it was very creative.
Are men buying women robots?
They do, and also men can buy men robots.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. Of course.
Can you buy dog robots?
It wasn't part of the show.
Hippo robots?
But maybe, I would assume so.
Mosquito robots.
I wouldn't want to put a mosquito robot on 100%.
No, but it was pretty neat though.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat, and it was like
there are a lot of variables.
And then there's like all these variables of like, can the robots actually learn how to feel, and stuff like that. Like if a certain chain of events happens and stuff like that.
Isn't that part of what they do is feel?
Well,
sure.
You're talking about emotionally.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Feel emotion.
Right.
I knew that already. All right. Companion, a movie. Grant, do you recommend it?
Oh, I recommend it highly. I think.
Really?
Do you recommend going to the movies to see it, or can I wait till it shows up on one of these Tubies?
I mean, I think you can wait. I mean, it's not like
I think this is going to show up on Booby.
To be honest,
Booby. Okay.
To be honest, I think what it comes down to is, look, if you're like me, you just like going to the movies.
Yeah.
You know, I like getting the popcorn.
Got the popcorn, the big drink.
You know, I like being in the
Do you
dark.
get any chocolate?
Right. Yeah. Sometimes, but not often. Amy's a big snow caps person.
Snow caps, yeah.
You know, but you know, I like going to the movies. Now, I wouldn't say something is 100% worth going to the movies unless it's like a big time sci-fi, like a Star Wars is worth going to the movies.
Yeah,
see it on the bigger screen.
Yeah, right. I got you.
Oh, and you know what? I'm going to take up your spot tonight by making another review.
Yes, please do.
Do you want to do it now?
I'll do it right now. Sure.
Okay. All right.
So I'm going to review American Primeval.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. This one's already been done. If you've been with us,
hold on.
You know, TD has already given this high praise.
I have. Hold on.
And Mark has already said that he's been kind of watching it, so I guess he finished.
I finished it. I watched it.
I haven't finished it. No spoilers.
Okay, no spoilers. I'll say this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great. I loved it. However, the technical director proclaims that this is the best show he's ever seen.
Better than Narcos.
In his entire life.
Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And what I have to say to you about that, sir, is what you're trying to be is you're trying to be the guy that found that show.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
You're not that guy.
I'm not.
You'll never be that guy.
What are you talking about?
You're just not that guy.
How am I trying to be the guy that found that show?
Well, I mean, you know what he's saying.
You're
taking it to an extreme
you're
level.
You're overblowing it.
And that's
to
what
say,
happens.
I found this show.
Yeah, no.
It's all about you.
Yeah. No.
He ain't wrong.
I did not say this would be the greatest show you have ever watched. I said it's the greatest show I have ever watched. There's a difference. I did not proclaim that the world. I did not. Did we go over now?
Yeah, bye TikTok. It was nice being on with you.
Nice knowing you, TikTok.
Yeah, we only get a 60-minute limit, but that's good. That helps us build. Anyway, so I did not proclaim that the world would consider this the greatest show. I'm just saying. Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, you liked it,
but I thought it was. I still think it's probably the greatest show I've ever.
Here's what I would say. Well, first of all, it was a great show. Yes. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, well that makes me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I'm 2 episodes in. So,
however, if you're gonna talk about the best show ever, okay, number one, it has to be more than 6 episodes. I mean, I don't care how much character development you have. In 6 episodes, it's not enough.
Yeah.
So you just using Peaky Blinders as an example. You can't beat Peaky Blinders character development in 6 episodes.
No.
You just can't.
Right.
It's
right.
True.
So that's why I think you need to pump the brakes.
All right.
And just say it's a really darn good show.
How about best limited series you've ever seen?
I'll
there you go.
That wouldn't be a much better proclamation.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
So just ipso facto, greatest show I've ever seen. It's going to be the best limited series I've ever seen. Right?
Okay.
So let's use that perspective. Where does it rank?
I will accept that. I have to think about it.
Okay.
But I will accept that. I'd say for limited series, I might put it in the top 5 though, for sure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
it was good.
That wasn't that far off.
It was good.
Yeah. I mean, one season, it's hard to duplicate that in one season.
I think the Grand Schwabini is making some very prudent and good points.
Mm-hmm.
He's just trying to help you in your analysis.
While I loved Peaky Blinders, and I do think it is up there with the best shows I've ever watched, the multiple seasons. There's no question the character development over time, obviously, was fantastic.
You tell him it was the Peaky Blinders.
Exactly. And it's so you know what? I will back off from that.
Okay.
And I will say that maybe we need a little more clarification.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right.
I think we arrived at a good place.
So then one quick question before we get to my review and then get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Do you think that American Primeval would be deserving of another season? Without giving anything away, because
I wouldn't, because I just think that
the way it ended.
Yeah, if you do another season, it's like you're destined for the second season not to be as good as the first.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they can do another trip, like maybe they start in St. Louis.
Well, we can't give away anything.
Right.
I'm on the fence. I think that the story itself was fantastic, and I do think there's room for more, but maybe more of the general situation and less of the individual characters. How did you feel about the child actors in that show? Weren't they fantastic? The young boy,
the boy was good,
and the Native American girl. It was like it was like they were fully developed. Look at Amy May chime in.
Amy's ready for another season.
Absolutely.
That's high praise.
Yeah, but Amy's not telling you the other half of it. The other problem with this show.
Don't give away anything.
No.
I should have quit while I was
no.
Because I really do want to watch it.
The problem. The problem is I can't get any sleep at night because she's having nightmares from what's going on in the show.
Right. Yeah, that was like Susan last night. She was like, I was up all night last night because I had a cookie right before we went to bed.
Well, whose fault is that, Susan? Whose fault is that? All right, what we are watching now. I'm going back to something. I have finished season 1. I know there are only 2 seasons. This is along the lines of my promise that I would complete this series no matter what. I am watching, or I have completed watching season 1 of Daryl Dixon. The Walking Dead. I got to tell you, I like it. I really liked it.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. I thought it was well done. I actually think it was as good as the ones that live.
I'll be honest with you. I watched the first episode and I said no.
Yeah, I know you said because of the whole France thing.
Yeah, how did he end up in France?
Well,
he's just floating.
No,
he's in France.
They explain.
He got on a boat.
Okay. They explain it.
He got on a boat.
See, I remembered that.
Yeah.
When I watched the first episode and he washes up on shore.
Yeah.
I remembered you saying that. I don't think I remembered you saying that you stopped watching after that episode.
Yeah.
But I remember you saying that because of that you couldn't watch it.
Right.
And I thought, well, they're going to do what they always do. There's going to be an explanation built in here somewhere.
So
and I want to hear the I want to see the events.
Was it a satisfactory explanation?
Yes.
You thought so?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It takes a little time to get there.
All right.
But they do the classic.
It is The Walking Dead. They take a while to get there.
They do the classic Walking Dead, like slowly over time.
Yeah.
You piece these memories together.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, okay, I see how he could make it.
Okay.
And it actually becomes the reason that he gets there and how he gets there and what happens to him afterwards actually kind of gets interwoven with the story.
Okay.
So it's not a random, like somehow he ended up on a boat and by hook or by crook or by extreme luck, he just washed up on the shores of France.
Right.
You know, there's a reason that he did what he did.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Okay.
So if you're a Walking Dead fan and you haven't watched Daryl Dixon, I would suggest it. Would I watch it before or after the ones that live? I don't think it matters, but I would stick to one or the other. And the next season of this is the Book of Carol.
Right. Yeah,
because,
Carol.
Because she is still alive. So obviously, somehow they make contact.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
This one.
Amy's a big Carol fan.
Yeah. I'm not a big Carol fan. I mean, like, I didn't dislike her, but I got a little tired of her act.
Yeah.
There were a couple times where I was kind of like, if she died here, I don't think the show would suffer.
It's one of the things that I think is just so weird about the storyline of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
They made Negan out to be like the worst guy on the planet.
He
ever,
was.
Right? And he was for a time.
And he was. But like nobody talks about the fact that like they all went in, Carol and, Rick and they all went into his crew as they were asleep and put knives in their temples.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think Negan brings that out.
he does bring it up.
He does.
Yeah, he says
He's
it
like,
at one point.
You think I'm so bad?
Right,
what
right,
do you think
right.
you've been
But
doing?
they're like, well, we're different.
yeah, but you were really bad. You
Yeah.
killed our friend.
Well, it's also, I don't think it's lost on anybody that band of characters,
Right.
Everywhere they seem to go, destruction follows.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Right.
always follows.
But that's
and not always by zombies.
no,
Right.
usually by them.
You know what's
which
kind
is
of funny
what
too?
happens to us.
There's never a problem with food until one day out of the middle of nowhere, it's like, we got to do something to get food.
It's like the desperate story.
Right.
For food.
All right, guys. You can watch Facebook, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok for a little while. This has been the Sports Porch, the Black and Gold edition, live all over the world. I'm going to drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And I'm going to ask you to please go over to YouTube and subscribe to our show at the Sports Porch Podcast. That would be wonderful. You can leave us a review. You can drop a comment every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. For the Grand Schwabini, for the technical director, I am your technical director and hockey Jesus and whatever. We are out, and so am I. It's the Super Bowl hangover.
You're losing steam.
Yeah, you are.
We are out. Jablonsk.
Jablonski.
Jablonks.